money too. I'm not looking for somebody
Proverbs
to like completely
21:19 donated $100. Better to live in a desert than with a quarrelsome and nagging wife.
Well, just get a good wife.
Thank you, Proverbs 21:19.
Just get a great wife that doesn't nag you.
Yeah.
What if she
How do you
started
become a good
out?
wife? We
What
should
if
talk
she
about that.
started
Yeah.
out as a great wife, but then, there was a steady decline into just a total grating personality. So
Why do you think that happens?
Why did it happen? Did you not? Was it your failure as the man to not vet that woman properly enough?
No,
Because that's the point of the dating process.
Or
is
maybe
to
you're
vet
not
the woman.
providing for her emotionally, and
I think. Well, sorry. Go ahead. Continue.
maybe you're not fulfilling all the duties that you should be as a husband, and so she feels a lack because of that.
No, I don't think so. I think in these situations.
Wait, are you single?
I think in these situations, the man is never to blame in these. No, I'm kidding.
Yeah.
I'd say it's hard to attribute who's to blame in these situations, but it's often a complaint that you hear from men about their partner being. You often don't hear women complaining about men being nagging. You hear other complaints, but you don't often hear women complain about men nagging them.
Let me give you a situation. Let's say I'm going to make a business, a multi-million-dollar business, and I'm going to go into business with a business partner. It's you, okay? We're making a business. Multi-million-dollar deals are on the table, and we've only known each other for 3 or 4 months. We don't know each other that very well.
Yeah.
And after 2 or 3 years, I find out that you're a rat, scumbag. You've been embezzling money. You've been screwing me over every step of the way. Most people would blame me for not vetting you well enough, and I think that's fair, right? I'd be at fault for not properly, because we got into business pretty on short notice.
I think both people would have accountability. I mean,
well, obviously
you shouldn't be
you transgressed, right? But
Right.
I didn't do my due diligence in vetting my business partner.
Sure.
That's how I look at a marriage also, right? I think when I'm looking at, this is my advice to most people, if you want to marry someone, you want to see how they are in the fall, winter, spring, summer. You want to see, do they get seasonal depression? Do they do things that make you uncomfortable? Are they annoying around the house? How are they dressed? There's 10 million different little micro variables you need to vet out, and this is the process of dating. And so part of it is like, well, what if your wife becomes a psycho 5 years into the marriage? Well, I think more often than not, you can vet for that. I think so, and I think people are not approaching dating from that mindset, and I think they probably should.
Yeah,
Well-
I mean, certainly, I think each partner has a responsibility, like you said, to do their due diligence and screen for potential things that could be an issue down the road. My thinking is, though, however, is that I do think, and look, I don't think one party bears all the blame or all the responsibility or accountability. I do think, though, that there's a potential, once you've been put, for example, and I think this is typically when it comes to the women, once you've secured the bag, aka wedding, marriage, it kind of does give an opportunity for potentially either partner to start feeling a little comfortable in that relation, and comfortable in a bad way, So, for example, comfortable disrespecting your partner potentially. So.
That's why you need boundaries.
Word.
Well, I also feel like people just don't know how to date anymore. I think that they don't know how to date or like vet or whatever phrase you want to use for it. And I think that people use people, especially in our society right now. Like women oftentimes will use guys for attention or for money or for comfort or whatever it is. And men use women for their bodies and also for comfort. And we have this society that's so conditioned to using people instead of loving people. And if we dated with the mindset, I want to get to know this person, I see their dignity and their value, and I want to see if this person is a potential life partner for me and invest in them, I think that we would have different outcomes. But unfortunately, because of our selfish society, people are dating to use people instead of dating to love them and dating to commit to them long term.
Yeah, I do think my mindset on dating is that dating is a process with which you find a person to marry, right?
Yeah.
And so I think people are just sort of dating very flippantly. Maybe it's for physical pleasure or just for fun or what. It's just someone to do things with versus, okay, this is someone that I am testing out for marriage. And the second I determine that our personalities are incompatible, I think it's probably best to break it off and maybe move on to someone new, right?
Well, so much of relationships are transactional instead of actually sacrificial. And really, a healthy, strong relationship, both partners will be sacrificing and not giving 50-50, but giving 110% or 120% and showing up and sacrificing every day for that person. But unfortunately, we have people, again, using people, having transactional relationships and not upholding the dignity of the other person.
Well, let me ask, as a matter of, oh, did you have something?
No.
Oh,
Go
okay, okay. In terms of proportion, who do you think is more likely, just on a gender level, who do you think is more likely to be a user? Because you mentioned a lot of people are approaching relationships in the transactional way.
Men.
You think men are more likely to be using than women?
Okay, using women, or do you think, or using relationships? Which one are you? Because I think men use women all day long,
as opposed to women?
Yeah. I think there's a difference between using a guy in a relationship. Like, let's say you're like trying to get something out of him. So you're kind of, I don't know, agreeing to be in a relationship that you're not totally into the person or whatever because you think it's benefiting your life in some way. Is that what you're talking about? Or are you talking about just generally who uses the other sex more?
Sure. Okay. Let's go into that. So you said the way that men typically will engage in transactional relationships with women or use women is they use women for their bodies, for sex or whatever. I, to some degree, reject that. But then you said, did you say that women will use men, for example, for financial reasons? They
Sometimes.
will to
some women.
Okay. I would argue that there are more women who are engaging in transactional relationships of this nature than the reverse. And here's one reason why I think there's a very small proportion of men that are able to command that sort of attention from women. Whereas most, like when it comes to like the relationship dynamics, I would say most women, generally speak, like let's look at the average here. Of course, I think there's this component of a lot of women are all chasing after the top 10, top 20% of men. So those men have quite a bit of negotiating power in relationships. However, you take an average guy and an average woman, I'd say the average woman is running circles around the average guy. I think that's because women are much more socially attuned. By the time a woman is 21, she's had much more social experience. And I think just naturally speaking, women are more socially attuned than men. So women, I think, are much more capable of running circles around men than the reverse.
But most women are not getting into relationships because they think that they're going to get some sort of like lifestyle benefit or something like that. They're in a relationship because they actually value the connection. And I would say that's not always the case for men.
Okay, let me ask you a question. Who do you think should pay on the first date?
Men.
Well, right, that's a bit transactional, don't you think?
No, because it's not about the transaction of just them paying. It's about that. First of all, I believe that men should pursue women. I think that men should take the leadership in relationships and even on the first date. I don't think that it's about, oh, he should pay for my meal and I'm going to go on the date with this guy and get a free meal out of it, which a lot of people are saying as a joke or serious. I think that it's a sign that that guy is willing to invest in you, if not only in time, but also in his money when he pays for your first date.
Well, you just said invest his time and his money. So isn't that to some degree a transactional?
It's not that it's a transaction. It's a show that he's willing to sacrifice in the future for your family or to take care of you or in your.
Why shouldn't women be doing that?
Women do it, but in different ways. So for example, if a woman becomes a wife, she might sacrifice her career to take care of her family and to have a baby. And women sacrifice in a different way than men sacrifice. Yeah,
but it's not a given when you first meet somebody that you know for certain if this person is going to be the person you spend the rest of your life with. So, I mean...
It's part of the pursuit.
So you're saying like 2 years down the road, that's potentially when a woman brings her end of the deal? Like,
I think it's part of... I don't think it's about bringing her end of the deal. It's part of the pursuit. I think women are meant to be pursued. Unfortunately, in the world we live in today, women have taken on masculine traits because they feel like they've confused the idea of having equal rights as being the same as men. So we have it backwards, where now we have a lot of women who think they need to pursue, and also with this idea of like this like scarcity idea that all women are going for the top 10, 20% of men. It's like there's this notion in women's minds that there's like a scarcity of good men. Well, I would argue that there's maybe a scarcity of good women also. And that has to do with, first of all, women taking on masculine traits, like pursuing the other person. But it also has to do with us creating an environment that breeds weak men that don't want to take leadership.
Also, like, some men I feel like to do that. Like, I feel like men like to express themselves through doing stuff for people and taking care of you, so that can feel good to some men as well.
I like it when a woman simps. Acts of service.
Some men-
Acts of service. Start simping.
I gotta say, one of the functions of like a high testosterone, giga chad, high value male is that you need to be willing to take risks. And one of these risks that you need to make a calculated risk, but one of those risks is, okay, I'm going to pay for the first date because this woman might 3 years from now, like, give me her womb and bear my children. And that's a sacrifice that she's making for me, but I need to be willing to take a calculated risk today because that might be what happens as a result. Is that not fair to say?
I know what you're
part
saying.
Of the pursuit, though, also is like showing the woman that you want to invest in her and take care of her. It's like, it's not just about like what might happen in the future. It's part of the game, so to speak, like the cat and mouse pursuit.
Yeah, it's like a balance of like masculine and feminine energies. It's not like so specific like a chart.
Yeah, I got to say, like, this is the only thing I disagreed with you on is your hesitance to use the word transactional. I don't think it's a bad word.